and
Yeah.
engineering skill. It's just absolutely marvelous. So blessed. Okay, Miss Nichols, let's talk about our story swap and introduce our feature teller, if you would, please.
Okay.
Your window.
So do you want to say something about our story swap for a minute?
Do I?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Well, all right. Let me just say what a delight it is to be here with you. And just to think, you know, we're almost 20 years and going, and we're still, even in this challenging time, to have so many people join us in the evening is just wonderful. And we will continue to do these Zooms until we can go back to Orinda Library. And each and every one of you are so important, as you were when you came in person. You know, every listener was important to us, every teller was important to us, and every story is important to us. So stay with us, and hello, everybody.
Yay.
Hey.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to just do a couple of housekeeping things. I'm going to, we have a featured teller, Andre Wilson. We're very excited. And then we have a full roster of swap tellers. And I'm going to let you, all of you swap tellers, know who you are. I think not everybody is here yet, but in a moment. But first, a couple of housekeeping things. During the storytelling, I think, Shags, why don't I mute people, and I think it's easier for me to find, but since I'm about to read the list of the order of the storytellers, maybe Shags, you can do the spotlighting, okay? I can also put it in the chat. Why don't I, would you like it if I do that?
Okay, you can put it in the chat, and once you introduce them, I'll seek them out on the screen and spotlight them.
Yeah, okay. So while storytellers are telling, we will be muting the rest of you, and so it works really well on Zoom. We're all learning that to applaud, if we go like this, which is like the ASL, American Sign Language applause. So then we can show how much we appreciated the story while we're still muted. Okay. And we understand if you have to leave early.
No, we don't.
Sally, you don't change.
Usually, you know, when we have our swap in person, we take a break in the middle and we have Sally's delicious biscotti or some wonderful other treat. But in this case, take your own, here's one of our swap tellers, just arrived, Cynthia. So take your own break as you need to, because we won't take a break. Okay, so let me first introduce Andre Wilson, and we'll hear a story from him, and then I will introduce the list of storytellers to come after him, and we'll start going through that list. Okay. All right, Andre, I know I have your bio hiding in my, yeah, okay. So, so Andre is spotlighted, yay. And Andre has been a member of our swap and a featured storyteller before, and we're so glad to have him back. He was born in LA, and his parents were poets and storytellers. And it was after his parents passed away that he began writing his own poems and stories. And so he is a published poet, but he's also very much a performing poet and storyteller. And he's been selected as a finalist for the Alexandria Quarterly First Line Poetry Contest.
Hey.
And nominated for a pushcart prize. And also, I just want to say, Andre, you know, you have really put yourself out there in so many kinds of venues, the
Thank you.
storytelling world, the solo performance world, you know, all kinds of, and I just admire you so much for that. And let's all give a very warm welcome to Andre Wilson.
Yay.
Well, thank you, everyone. It's so good to see people's faces after wearing a face mask all day.
True.
Yes, it's really quite a pleasure. Okay.
I'm going to mute everyone for a second. So let me unmute you, okay? Because I'm muting everyone. And then let me, either you have to unmute yourself or can you unmute yourself, Andre?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry about that kerfuffle.
Okay, great. Thank you, Liz. Nicknamed Bill because she spoke her mind and did not shy away from a fight as if she was Wild Bill Hickok. My grandmother, Ora Dawson, was born in 1897 in Lee County, Texas. Her two youngest daughters, Dolores, my aunt, and Jessie Lee, my mother, were born in the 1930s in Burleson County in the town of Somerville. After a brief stint as a Rosie the Riveter in Oakland's shipyards, Bill returned back to Texas to resume life as a sharecropper's wife. They picked cotton and tended cattle. One day, Bill said to her daughters, "On the way to school, I want you girls to take our cows, Rosie, an old black gal, over to Miss Nancy Fleming's pasture, over down by the lane." And then, because we rented some pasture space from her. And then after school, I want you girls to come on home with the cows. But after school, the girls became distracted and delayed. Sometimes they stopped by Cousin Ruby's to watch her sew on her sewing machine. Sometimes they stopped by Mrs. Wade's to walk with little David a little ways. Soon, their mother, Bill, noticed the girls arriving home later and later as the sun approached the horizon. One morning, Bill said to her daughters, "I'm gonna walk with you girls. Will you take the cows to pasture this morning?" And the sisters looked at each other. What? Walking behind their cows, Rosie and old black cow. Bill led her daughters, Dolores and Jessie Lee. They walked past the white cemetery and past the Mexican cemetery, and they kept walking. Finally, Bill stopped at the edge of a bridge and pointed up above. "You girls see that broken branch over the bridge?" "Yes, Mama." "White folks hung a black man there years ago. Now, do you see the grooves on that branch around that knotted piece of rope?" "Yes, Mama." "Those were made by the rope from the black man as he died." From that day forward, the two sisters came straight home with the cows. Following the murder of George Floyd, I became fascinated with the lynching stories of my grandmother. I see that there's connected to what has gone on today, and that there's not very much difference between a rope around the neck and a knee on the neck. And that these type of things have been going on in one form or another. And it turns out that the lady from whom they rented the pasture land, Miss Flemings, she herself had lost a son who was chased by a white mob and beaten to death. So I can imagine my grandmother's desire to protect her sons and children from lynching. Years later, when my mother moved away from Texas to California, got married and divorced, she called Mama up and said, "Mama, can I come back home and live with you in Texas?" And her mother Bill said, "Mm-mm. You're raising two black boys who've only lived in the city. You bring them back down here, and they are bound to say or do something that will get themselves lynched." So my mother stayed in California, which is why I'm in California today. Bill died in 1970. And thereafter, my mother started to collect and recall different stories that Bill had told her. And at one point, on October the 30th, 1988, I wrote down a story that my mother told me, which her mother had told her. Now, way back around southeast Texas, near Somerville, there lived a very wealthy white woman. She had property, she had a nice mansion, and she also had servants, black, of course. And she also had a diamond wedding ring. One day, she lost her wedding ring, and she looked all over the mansion for it, but she could not find her wedding ring for the life of her. She searched and searched and searched. And then finally, she suspected, well, maybe my black servant has taken that ring, because he's been in this house bringing in firewood and running errands. So maybe he took it. So she confronted her servant and asked, "Have you seen my wedding ring, the one that my husband gave me?" And he said, "No, ma'am. I've never seen your wedding ring. I don't touch anything of yours." But she felt compelled that because he was black, that he had to have taken her wedding ring. So she asked again, "Are you sure you haven't seen my wedding ring?" He said, "No, ma'am. I've worked with you for years, and I've never taken anything from you. I just get my food, my pay, and my board from you. But I don't take anything from you." But the white woman still was not convinced. So finally, she summoned her husband. She said, "Our servant, he took my wedding ring, the one you gave me, the one with the big diamond. I don't feel safe in this house with him. If he could take my wedding ring from me, what else will he take? He's probably been stealing from me this entire time, pretending that he's an innocent, faithful servant. I want you to take him out to the country, find a tree, and hang him." The servant pleaded, I swear to God, I didn't take your ring." But the husband didn't listen. He got a group of white men together, and they tied the hands of the pleading black servant, and they led him away. After he left, the woman looked around her house at all the things that were left undone because she no longer had a servant. And she said, "Well, I guess I got to do a few things myself until I hire somebody new to replace him." And she looked at her washstand, at the dirty water sitting in the basin, the bowl there. And she grabbed the basin and went down the hall and out the door and threw the dirty water out onto the ground. And there Sparkling in the mud was her diamond wedding ring. It had slipped off her finger when she had washed her hands that morning. Realizing her mistake, she summoned a messenger and wrote a message. Do you think you know where they took him? Yes, ma'am, I think I know where. Well, I want you to get this message to my husband, but you gotta hurry, please. The messenger ran, but he arrived too late. The story ends there, but I often wonder about the next morning. When the woman awoke, I went to a washstand to wash her hands. I'm pretty sure that this time she carefully removed her diamond wedding ring and put it on the edge. And like Lady Macbeth, she washed and washed and washed her hands, unable to clean them. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Andre,
You're welcome.
for sharing that. Whew. Stories that need to be handed down and need to be told. We still need to keep telling them,
Yes, thank you.
just like you said. Okay. So we always have a featured teller, and well, actually next couple of months, we're going to open it up because we've had lots of people coming and lots of people wanting to tell. So, but we also, after our featured teller, we always have a roster of people to share stories. And since we've been on Zoom, we've been asking people to sign up in advance. So we've got that list. And each of you have given me an idea of how long your story is. And I want to show you that my plan, I forgot that I had this. I don't know how well this will work. I was going to try and do I'm going to try this because sometimes doing the musical thing has been difficult. Is that if you make sure that you can see my square when you're telling, that if you've told me your story is 8 minutes, let's say, when you get to 6 minutes, I'm going to hold this up. And when you only have 1 minute left, I'm going to hold this up. Okay? So that'll give you a sense, if you're running behind to do your best to wrap up your story. Okay. So who do we have telling? I have to get my list. Okay. We have Sarah Armstrong, Claire, who's going to tell a short traditional story, Claire Castell, who has a personal story, and Rupa Mohan also has a personal story, then Bertha Riley, then Cynthia Cutterback with another personal story. We have a lot of personal stories today. And then Ken Parsons, our wonderful guest from Newfoundland, who has a personal story in the form of a poem. And then Sally will close our swap with a traditional story. So everybody, you have a sense of when you come in the, and I will also now, I'm going to cut and paste this and put it in the swap. I mean, in the chat. Put it in the chat. Okay. Here we go. Here's everyone, and here is the list. So let's welcome Sarah Armstrong. And Sarah, can you, when I call on you, I think you, please try and unmute yourself.
Okay, I think I did. Great. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Sally. Good to see everybody here. I'm imagining this old story this way. There was a woman who had a small farm. She and her son lived there together for many years. and she had a horse. Now, whether it was a gift for an act done or bartered for some valuable, or she just rescued it from somewhere, we don't know. But she raised this horse from when it was a colt, and it turned out to be a beautiful white stallion. Well, the neighbors in the village felt that they needed to give her some advice. We know some people who do that, whether we want it or not. So they came to her and they said, you know, that horse is a blessing. You should sell that horse. You'd have enough money to live comfortably for the rest of your life. And she said, well, thank you for your opinion. The fact is, I do have this horse, and he's really part of my family, so I'm not interested in selling him right now. Well, they left shaking their heads. She just doesn't get it. Not long after that, she went out to the barn, and the horse was gone. News traveled fast, and the folks came out again and said, well, we thought it was a blessing, but it really was a curse. That horse is gone. You have lost not only him, but the money that you could have gotten, and we're sorry that you didn't take our advice. Well, she said, I don't know if it's a curse or a blessing. It's your opinion, but the fact is the horse is gone. Well, not too long after that, the horse came back with 11 other wild horses. Amazing. The people from the village came and said, you were right. It was a blessing after all. And again, she said, I don't know about blessings or curses. The fact is my horse is back, and he's brought more with him. Well, the neighbors went away saying, you know, she just doesn't get it. And shortly after that, there was a call from the neighboring kingdom that a war was starting, and that all the young men from all the nearby towns would be conscripted and taken to fight the war. Well, before that happened, this young man her son was trying to tame the horse, and was bucked off by one of the wild horses and broke his leg. Again, the folks came and said, those blessings, we thought all those horses were a blessing, but it actually was a curse. Your son has broken his legs. It's just terrible. We're sorry about that. And she said, well, again, blessing or curse, I don't know. But the fact is, my son is hurt, and that's what I know for sure. Again, they went away shaking their heads. And now the news came of this conscription of the young men from the nearby towns. And all the young men were taken except for this young man, because he had been injured. So the people came out to her farm one more time and said, oh, curses or blessings. This turned out to be a blessing, even though it seemed to be a curse. We're so sorry, our sons are gone. We'll never see them again. And she said, curse or blessing, I don't know. The fact is, my son is here. Your sons are gone. The war has started. And the fact is, we don't know what's going to happen. So I wish you the very, very best for your children, and that we can celebrate their return when the war is over. So the people left for the first time thinking, maybe we didn't get it, and she's given us some hope, and that's something very special. Thank you.
I'm going to clap for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. That was wonderful. An old story told in a way I've never heard it told before. Love it. That's one kind of fun storytelling that we get at our swap. All right. Our next storyteller is Claire Castell. And she told me that her story is called Swinger's House. I can't wait.
Let me see. Am I unmuted? I've got things on my screen that are telling me.
I can hear you. As soon as you get started, I'll mute myself. But
Okay. So my phone just rang. Okay, it's good. So it was 1978. I was nearly 29, and my lover, Arthur, had just left me for a 20-year-old, and I was shattered. He wanted to go sail the Caribbean in a trimaran with her, and I was a single mother, and a good job, and I couldn't just up and run away with him. So I was brokenhearted. Well, Arthur's partner was a guy named Marty, his business partner. They had a small architectural firm. And Marty was also devastated that Arthur left because he was his business partner and he was his best friend. Now, Marty invites me out for drinks to a nice little fern bar in Los Gatos called Carrie Nations. And we're both moaning about, oh, how Arthur could do this. You know, Marty says, oh, the office, it's so boring now. I don't know how I can do it without him. And I'm going on about, oh, I'm so brokenhearted. I'll never find love again. I don't know what I'll do without him. And we're just going on like that. And then Marty says, hey, I've got an idea. Let's go to the swingers house. Now, the swingers house was famous in San Jose. It was a place to get away and walk on the wild side. I'd never been there before, but I'd always heard about it. I thought, oh, well, you know, maybe I'm thinking this might be the Playboy Mansion. I've got pictures of big lush gardens and pools and beautiful people in the garden, handsome men, and maybe it's a chance to find new love. So I say, okay, we'll go. Now Marty is kind of a little skinny guy. He's got a receding hairline and glasses. I mean, a real nice guy, but he's definitely in the friend zone. But I feel comfortable enough with him. So we go and we're driving, and it's in this neighborhood called the Almaden in San Jose. Now, I didn't go much in that area, so I was kind of disappointed as we pull into this housing tract of stucco houses, because this did not look like there was going to be a Playboy Mansion anywhere. And we pull up to the address, and all the homes are shades of brown and beige. And this house is a big house, but it's beige, stucco. And I'm going, God, this is not what I was expecting. But we're here, we're gonna go in. So we go in, and there's a lot of people milling about in the living room, eating crappy hors d'oeuvres. And the first thing I notice is the inside of the house is beige too. I mean, who does that? And then I see the artwork, that Don Quixote. Where have I seen that one before? Oh, I saw that at the Ramada Inn. This is also very banal. Now, this is not the kind of swingers club where you throw your keys in a bowl and you get picked or you pick somebody. But you're supposed to go there and find somebody you want to get with. And, you know, small talk in that circumstance is really awkward. So Marty and I see there's a big swimming pool outside, and there's a lot of people in it, and they're all naked, but you know, you really can't see too much. And this might be an easier way for us to get to talking to somebody. So we don't know what to do with our clothes though. So we go find a bathroom and we grab a towel, you know, kind of cover up, sort of go out to the pool and sort of slide into the pool sort of elegantly. And we paddle around and we see this couple and we start talking to them, and I'm going to call them Ted and Alice. So Marty is really into Alice. She is this pretty little blonde, petite, kind of quiet. So I can see that this is working out for him. Now Ted, he's all right. He looks like a young Kevin Spacey, you know, nice enough, but it's not ringing big bells for me, but he's not bad. And this seems like a good way to go. So we slip out of the pool with them and get our towels, and we go down the hallway, which is also beige, and there's a lot of bedrooms. And I notice that these are kids' rooms. And Marty and Alice slip into one room, and we go into another kid's room and there's rocket ship wallpaper on the wall, which is really not working for me in terms of mood setting. But Ted and I give it the old college try. And, you know, a little instructions like, okay, maybe a little to the left. All right, now further. So none of this is working clearly for Ted and not working for me. So we sit there for a minute. Oh, why don't we go see what Marty and Alice are doing? Great, yes, we get our towels. We peek in on them, they're doing fine. Now, I don't want to couple up with anybody else. This is just too weird. So I wander around and I go downstairs. There's this big rumpus room downstairs. And there's a huge bed down there that somebody set up and it's full of bodies. People are laying all over the bodies in various stages of undress. And I'm going, oh my. But just as I do that, this man beckons me, come on in. It'll be fun. It'll be great. I thought, all right, well, you know, maybe this is where it gets sexy. Maybe this will be fun. So I land myself in this pile, and I'm on a bed with a lot of people and a lot of body parts. And I realize I'm expected to do something with these body parts, and then a man grabs my breast and he starts to dial it like he's trying to tune the radio, trying to get radio-free Europe. I go, oh my God, that's awful. I gotta go. And I jump out. I run and I get my clothes. And by then, Marty's ready to go. And so we head home. And of course, this was not what I'm expecting. And I realized that impersonal cold sex is not the way to cure a broken heart. If I'm feeling empty, and I'm feeling something else. Beige. I'm feeling beige.
Feeling beige. That's a new one for me. Feeling beige. Thank you, Claire. We don't feel beige here in your story. Definitely. By the way, I didn't mention before, and this is a part of Zoom etiquette that some people like and some people don't. So just an option, if you want to open up your chat, which is a little like word bubble, looks like a cartoon bubble at the bottom of your screen, all of you. You can write a little note to everyone just saying how much you liked that story, you know, or just a sentence there. And if you don't like that and it's distracting for you, then please just don't do that. You know, don't use the chat. So, but a lot of people, the young people are doing that in Zoom these days. So, okay. Thank you so much, Claire. That was wonderful. All right. Our next storyteller is Rupa Mohan, and there she is. And Rupa and I tell stories both with others at the Asian Art Museum, where we tell traditional stories, but today she's got a personal story for us. Welcome, Rupa.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the double life I had when I was a child growing up in India. Yes, a double life. That of quite a traditional young Hindu girl and a student in a very strict Catholic school. Yes, a Catholic school called Sacred Hearts Presentation Convent, in the heart of this rather conservative town called Chennai, which used to be known as Madras in my time. My parents believed that this school would give me and my sister a complete, well-rounded English education. So we went along with it. Well, the new nuns had come in. They had taken over from the rather jolly foreign nuns. And these new nuns were Indian, and they wanted to be really strict and mold us all into perfect students, perfect young ladies, of course, prim and proper all the time. And our school song actually reflected this. It went like this: under the standard of our school, glory, honor, reign. And it would go on like this with all kinds of virtues being covered. And finally, we would end by singing, Alma Mater, let the flag unfold. Stand brave, stand true, under the green and gold. Of course, we had to hold our, arms like this and sing. No fidgeting, nothing out of place. Actually, we got used to singing this. 80% or so of us were actually Hindus, very few Catholics in this Catholic school. And actually, the religion was not enforced on us, at least not obviously. But the nuns also made sure we didn't bring our own religion and culture and tradition past the gates of the school. We went along with it. In fact, our uniform was kind of this color, a green pinafore, many layers, and we had to wear these brown, uncomfortable shoes, nylon socks, and this one piece of apparel called bloomers. Have you heard of bloomers? These are like from the Victorian era. And, and if anybody was forced to wear these like we were, I would love to chat with you later. I've been wanting to do this for decades now. So, so we went, in this very uncomfortable outfit. We went to school, and it was such heaven to come back to our homes in the evenings and throw all this away and get into our loose and comfortable Indian clothes and run barefoot on the cold floors of our homes, and sometimes climb up the tile roof to pluck the green mangoes on the trees. Oh, it was such freedom, and we were not so prim and proper after all. In fact, our school was very particular that we had to learn music and poetry and sewing and all that along with our other classes. And we had to, all the non-Catholics had to attend a class called moral science every day. Honestly, I can't remember what we learned there. One thing that slips my mind. But, we all did it. We just went along. And also, we had to sing, of course, music, all the British and American tunes we had to learn, always holding our hands like this. And we had a very good piano teacher named Handel Manuel, and he trained us really well. In fact, I was selected to be a little Dutch girl in a small musical production. And my parents spent a fortune to get me this authentic Dutch costume with clogs, with a white bonnet, all for like 15 minutes of stage time. And none of us had ever seen a tulip. But our teachers made us these beautiful paper tulips, which we held on to like dear life as we sang, when in spring again, we'll bring again tulips from Amsterdam. Now I look back and wonder why we all looked so sad and so stiff. Of course, prim and proper it was, I guess. But in my other life, back in my home, I got to dabble a little bit in our Indian and Hindu, music and dance. And there it was totally different. We learned like South Indian Carnatic music, keeping beat like this. Sarigama gama pa. That's how we went. And I actually got to play the great god Shiva in a small production, of course, outside my school. And I had to wear this nice imitation tiger skin. I had to wear a plastic snake around my neck. I had a trident, and cascading hair, and of course, that famous third eye was drawn on my forehead. And then I could move my hands wildly as I danced, strong and powerful. Said Nandi Vahana Nagabhushana Nirupama Guna Sadana Natana Manohara Nila Kanta Shiva Niraja Dala Nayana. About all the attributes of Shiva, including his famous vehicle, the Nandi or the bull. There was a cheap cardboard version of that on the stage. So this was totally liberating. But back in my school, a little piece of my tradition and culture visited me every afternoon at lunch. You know, we didn't have a cafeteria and we could not step outside those tall gates. So our moms, actually, most of our moms, packed us this gourmet lunch, not a sandwich, but a 3-course meal in something called a tiffin carrier, a stainless steel 3-tiered lunchbox in my case, beautifully brought together with a spoon on top. It was a magnificent piece of equipment. And I had to carry my sisters as well, which is quite heavy. The rich kids, of course, got their big fancy lunch boxes with hot food delivered by their chauffeurs in the afternoon. But I was happy to carry mine. And as soon as the bell rang, we sat under either a tamarind tree or a gulmohar tree, and we spread out our lunches and started eating. We would open the first tier of the box, and there would be a vegetable fondly cooked by our mothers. And if it was like a root vegetable that was nicely sauteed, that would really make my day. The second one would have like a lentil and rice concoction, something very South Indian. The third one would have the quintessential comfort food for all of us, yogurt with rice. Perfect for the hot, humid weather of Chennai. And that would have an extra treat on it, a pickled mango or a lemon. That was delicious, and it kept us going for the rest of the afternoon. My biggest accomplishment, I suppose, was when I was cast in the school play, a big fundraiser in my final year, and I somehow got cast as Jane Bennett in a big production of Pride and Prejudice. And the thing was, we were pulled out of class every day for a whole month in order to rehearse for this because they wanted it to be perfect. And I missed all my classes and didn't think about it because it was such a fun experience. Now I thought I was doing really well and I had all the lines down and, you know, I was so confident. But my drama teacher pulled me aside and said, you need to work on your posture. Jane Bennett needs to walk like a model, she said. I said, oops. And then she took me under her wing. I was her Eliza Doolittle, I suppose. And she put all these books on my head and made me practice like that, walking. And it was quite humiliating. But remember, I had grown up, you know, learning poems like Tennyson's, you know, the Charge of the Light Brigade, and lines like, there's not to reason why, there's not to do reply, there's but to do and die. I mean, we didn't go as far as dying, but we had to be really obedient and not ask any questions. So the play was a big hit. My parents were very proud, and I completed my school years and I was off to college. And guess what? I went to another Catholic institution. This time, the nuns had transitioned to saris. They had opened up their gates and doors to more of the local culture and traditions. And looking back, you know, having the best of both worlds is not a bad thing after all. I realized that I had this rigid school life and then some creativity in my home life. Somehow magically they all came together like that, and I could soar about Chennai and enjoy the world at large. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much. I don't even know if anybody can hear me. Can you hear me? You can. Okay. Thank you, Rupa. Wow, you took us on a real journey through time and space and across cultures. Another thing that stories are so good at doing. All right. Well, speaking of traveling, whenever I hear Bertha Riley, our next storyteller, I feel transported to Ireland because although she's lived here for many, many years, just the minute you open your mouth, you're just all ears. Please welcome Bertha.
Okay. Well, the funny thing is, I was going to tell a slightly different version of the story that Sarah told. So, because I don't know, it just seemed appropriate, you know, the curse or the blessing, the hope and stuff. So, but I have a couple of other little things. And so I actually think I wrote a poem for the COVID-19. So I thought, well, maybe that I would share that. So I hope that's all right, Liz. Just a couple of little stories from.
Go for it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. This is for the COVID-19, and it was written in the early days. So the first verse is, it's called, Isn't It Strange? So, isn't it strange that the things Greta asked for, fewer planes in the sky, fewer cars on the roads, have suddenly happened from somewhere beyond our control? Isn't it strange that an infinitesimal piece of life can create such havoc and bring us to our knees, or perhaps to our senses? Isn't it strange that suddenly all that can save us are those who take care of us, our physical health, our mental health, and our shelter? Isn't it strange? Isn't it strange that all the guns and the tanks and the bullets and the violence that we've paid so much for with our taxes, with the promise of safety, are useless now against this tiny organism? That's some of my political stuff as well. I work to stop the arms trade. Okay, and then, so I have a couple of little, maybe tiny stories. So this is one from Nasruddin, and it's called The Secret of Happiness. Okay, so one day a student asked Nasruddin, what is the secret to attaining happiness? And Nasruddin replied, the secret is always to follow your own good judgment. And the student asked, how do we attain good judgment? Nasruddin replied, from experience. And the student said, well, how do we attain experience? And Nasruddin's reply was, from bad judgment. Okay, so I have one more, let me see. Do I have another minute? Okay.
You have a minute. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, well, I think that, okay, this is, so a man entered, this is another kind of funny one. A man entered a monastery and he took a vow of silence. And every 5 years, the abbot would interview him. He'd had an interview with the abbot, and the abbot would say, well, how is it going? And the first 5 years, he said, well, I have a problem with the doctrine of the Trinity, but I think I have sorted it out. And the abbot said, well, anything else to say? And no, I don't think so. So another said, do you have any problems? And the young man said, well, it's hard to wake up at 4, but I think I'm getting used to it. And the abbot said, well, do you have anything else to say? And the young man said, no, I don't have any other problems. Another 5 years went by, and he had his interview with the abbot. And the abbot said, it's hard to subsist on just one bowl of gruel a day. I'm getting used to it. So the abbot said, do you have anything else to say? No, not really anything else to complain about. So another 5 years went by, and he saw the abbot. And the abbot said, so do you have any problems now? And the young man said, well, sleeping on a stone floor isn't so easy, but I think I'm getting used to it. So another 5 years went by. And he had this interview with the abbot. And the abbot said, you know, how's it going then? The young man said, well, I'm leaving. And the abbot said, well, it's no surprise because you've done nothing but complain. Okay, so that's my story.
Thank you. Thank you, Bertha. You gave us something to think about and something to laugh at. Again, wonderful things that stories do for us, and poetry. All right. Moving along, our next storyteller. Actually, you know what? Before I call you up, Cynthia, are you there, Cynthia? I hadn't actually, there you are. Okay, good. But I said we're not taking a break, but we have been like, let's at least just take a breath in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe stretch up, tickle the ceiling, it makes it laugh.
Yeah.
You breathe out. Yeah. Give yourself a pat on the back for being here or whatever. Yeah. Just, All right. So with a little fresh oxygen, we are ready to welcome Cynthia Cutterback with a personal story. Please take it away, Cynthia.
This story is Lessons from a Wheelchair. I think it's the first card in the tarot deck is the picture of the Fool. Now the Fool is sauntering along, eyes on the sky, head in the clouds, and his little dog is running along next to him. And the Fool doesn't realize that he's about to step off a cliff. Well, I sure felt like a fool when I stepped off a cliff that was literally that high, but it was just enough to twist my ankle and my knee. And when they asked me to pick up my foot, it went, eh. I broke all 4 bones in my left ankle, and it was a month before I was supposed to start teaching at a new school in the Mission District. I ended up having a I was hanging with these Lyft drivers, people I would not have encountered had I not been a fool. And I started finding these wise fools all over. I met 2 or 3 young men who had been translators in Afghanistan who had to move to the United States and start over because they had been so foolish as to oppose their own government. I met a tall woman with a bass voice. Her name was Annika. And she told me how frustrating it was when people addressed her as sir, an identity she had left behind with the name Eric 5 years before. And I met Anthony. Anthony had been a high-level security consultant. If you built a new building, he would create the entire security system. If you had a big convention, he would handle all the security, both the human and the technological stuff. Complicated projects, and they kept him awake all the time. He'd had to be on call 24/7, and he was away from home a lot. So he gave his wife a puppy for company. We'll call her Bella. Now, Bella immediately decided that actually Anthony was her person. And so when Anthony was home, if he got up to answer an emergency call about the security business, Bella would get up and keep him company. So one night he got a call, 1:30 in the morning. Dragged himself in. Bella followed him, right? And he dealt with whatever the issue was. 45 minutes later, he goes back to bed. Bella goes back to bed. Next night, even later, the call's at 2:30 in the morning. He goes, he starts dealing with it. Bella comes along. Well, she waits. Eventually, the call is done. They both go back to bed. 3 nights in a row. This time, 3:30 in the morning, the darkest hour of the night. Anthony goes to take the call. Bella follows him, and then she looks at him and she says, and she goes back to bed. And this moment, it frees Anthony. He suddenly realizes that this isn't necessary. He's gone as far as he can with his career.
He can cut his hours back. He can actually cut back so far that he has time on the side to drive Lyft, all because his dog played for him the role of the king's fool, the fool who can speak truth to power, the fool who has no fear of repercussions and therefore finds the wisdom in absurdity. Well, I continued feeling like a bit of a fool myself. I finally managed to switch to commuting by BART. I learned a lot about the handicapped access in our BART system and how bad it is. I learned a lot about alternate uses for elevators, which are really not compatible with wheelchair use. I learned about stations where the elevator's at one end and the gate's at the other. But I learned about people too. I learned about myself. I was wheeling along down Market Street, and some random person popped out of the crowd and said, "Man, would it be all right if I prayed for you?" Now, normally that happens, you go, back off, personal space. I was broken. I was a fool. I was sort of, not exactly public property, but I was just in that different space. And so he prayed over me. It was nice. I was glad I'd been a fool. A few days later, traversed the same route, and when I got into the BART station, there was this couple, black man and woman, all dressed in white, and they've got this big conga drums, and they're making God music, and they're just rocking the place, and it's a joyful noise unto the Lord. And I went and I sat and I watched them for a while, and then I went to wheel myself off to the elevator. In fact, I'd gotten like 20 feet, and suddenly this guy comes running after me, holding out his arms like this. And I managed to stand up, and I hugged him, and he hugged me. And it was the first proper hug I'd had in months. And I thought, it's okay to be a fool sometimes.
Thank you. Wow, that was we can all really relate to that, not having had a hug in a long time. Or certainly not all the hugs that we're used to. Thank you.
Zen hugs to everybody then.
Yeah. Virtual hugs. All right. Our next, can we call you a storyteller, Ken? Or yeah, you'll cop to that. Okay.
Yes,
We can call you a storyteller. We can call you a reciter. So as I said, I got to watch Ken on YouTube, and I just thought we all want to hear this. So let's welcome Ken. We're so glad to have you visiting with us.
Hello, everybody. How's it going? Greetings from Newfoundland, Labrador. We're the most easterly province in Canada. I'm about, 24 miles from the most easterly point in North America. Live on the coast, about 20 minutes outside the capital city, St. John's. The story you said was about roundabouts, and roundabouts are sort of a newer thing here in the province. We haven't had a lot of them, and they've sort of popped up recently. And some of the older crowd have a little bit of trouble with it. I write stories about a little town in Newfoundland called Raisin Arm out in Bonavista Bay. Here's one of those stories. About once a year, we leaves Raisin Arm and we makes the St. John's hop. I like to see me cousin Glenn, and well, the missus likes to shop. But it's all tore up. The road, that is what Father'd call a snarl. Sure took me half an hour to find my way into Mount Pearl. And we and Glenn had a grand old chat, and as we were about to go, he asked us if we heard about this brand new store, Costco. Well, my missus' ears stood up like sticks. She spun right in her tracks. Well, I knew right away that was her place, so we'd have the double back. So I asked old Glenn what's the quickest way that we could get in and out. And he said, well, just go straight up the road and then through the roundabout. Roundabout what? Well, it wasn't clear. Was it roundabout a mile, or do I have to go right round something? Sure, that would take a while. No, says Glenn, that roundabout is up there on the end. All you do is go straight through. It's as easy as that, my friend. As clear as mud is what I thought. It's not as simple as it sounds. How can I go right straight on through if I have to go around? Well, Glenn said I shouldn't worry much. I'd figure it out just fine. But I have to say, when I left that day, that played upon my mind. Well, we headed out, and yes, that roundabout was up there on the end. But before I knew, I was all askew back the other way again. I thought me and the missus both kind of knew our way around. But it's hard to know when you change the roads every time we comes to town. Well, I got myself all organized for the second time I'd try her. But I felt myself going round and round like socks goes in a dryer. See, when I grew up, we just had one straight road. We didn't have this circus ride. But have no fear, I made it clear. Clear over to Kilbride. On attempt number 3, it occurred to me I should take that second gate. But after that first hoop, there was another loop. So I drove a figure 8. I ended up in the construction store parking lot. I was flustered by Lord bless us. My mind was blown, so I flipped out my phone and I called a taxi for the missus. Well, I'm still over at the construction store, and Costco, well, that's her life. But what I wants to say, well, it's been 3 days. Has anybody seen my wife?
Beautiful.
That was good.
Delightful. Thank you so much, Ken. What a silver lining of this crazy time, that even though we can't all be together like we love to be, you can be with us. And
I appreciate it.
you know, we discovered each other. You discovered us, I don't know, a week ago or something like that. And here you are. Thank you. Thank you for staying. You had to stay up late, right? What time is it where you are?
We're 4.5 hours, so 12:30. Yeah, a little after 12:30. 4.5 hours later.
That's past my bedtime, so we really appreciate it. Thank you.
No, it's great fun. I think it's the most diverse type of story evening that I've had in a while. I've joined in with some groups from Massachusetts and Montreal, Cork in Ireland a couple of times now in the last couple of months. And this has been the most interesting evening with the most diverse type of stories.
We've got 6 of our story swaps from the Storytelling Association of California online right now. So
cool.
Somebody can send you that list.
I believe I've already got that. I had the link and I went a little bit through that today. And likewise, if anybody's interested, the St. John's Storytelling Festival Board has a story circle here the second Wednesday of every month. That's at about 7:30. So you're looking at 3 o'clock your time, which works out in your favor in the other direction. But you guys are all welcome.
Thank you so much. What a lovely invitation. And some of our swaps are in the afternoon, like at least the Delta Word Weavers is at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So that would be a little more reasonable time for you. So check that out. All right, I'm going to turn this over to Sally. So we have to make sure that Sally's unmuted, or maybe, yeah, Sally, where are you? Okay. All right.
I unmuted myself.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Right. So Sally is the host of our swap, and we don't always get to have a story from her, but we do tonight. Welcome, Sally.
Hello, hello. Let's see, the host has spotlighted you. Unmute myself. I did
You're
that.
good.
Okay, but I got this thing sitting in the middle of oh, there we go. Okay, great, great. Well, Liz wanted to tell you this story to end the swap. And I said, oh no, that's my story. I heard this story very early on in my storytelling career. And I loved it. I loved it. And Liz recently told it. Liz, what was that affair that you?
At the San Francisco Free Folk Festival. So
right.
some of you were here and you already heard me. So
Yeah, so Liz told it. So now I get to tell it. And it's about a husband and wife, simple people, lived in India. The wife stayed home, took care of the house. The husband went out each day to take care of his crops in the field. But there was something special about this, about the wife. You know, she knew a song and she knew a story, except that she never told them. She never told the story. She never told the song. They were sort of imprisoned inside of her. But the story and the song felt that they were really choking. They wanted out. They wanted to be expressed. And one day, when the woman fell asleep, the story leaped out and changed itself into a pair of shoes and nestled by the door. And the song leaped out of her mouth and changed itself into a coat and hung itself on a peg adjacent to the door. And when the husband came home that night, of course, the first thing he saw were the shoes and the coat. Wife, who's been here today? Why, no one. What do you mean? Whose shoes are these? Whose coat is this? Well, I'm sure I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Who's I? And they began to argue. And the conversation became very unpleasant and very heated. And the husband, he took his blanket and said, I am going to the temple to sleep. And he left. And the wife, she went around the room. She didn't know whose shoes are those. I don't know whose coat that was. Finally, it was time to go to bed, and she blew out her lamp and lay down. Now, it was custom in that village for the flames of the lights, the last flame of the light, to all migrate down to the temple. And when the little flames got there, they would talk to each other, gossiping about what happened in the village, this and that and this and that. And there was one flame that was very late. And when it came in, everybody's attention was turned toward, oh, you should have been at my house. You should have been at my house. Oh, the husband and wife had such a fight. Oh, it was just terrible. You know, the wife, she knew a story and she knows a song, but she has never told them. And the husband heard this. He was under his blanket pretending to be asleep in the temple, and he heard this, and he could not wait for dawn. And when dawn came, he rose up and went home, opened the door, looked for his wife, went into the bedroom, shook his wife awake. Well, wife, you have a song and you have a story. Tell me your song and tell me your story. What? A song and a story? She had forgotten them. And the reason I like this story so much for this time is I think that we should all write down our stories. Make sure you're making notes. Make sure you're thinking about the stories of this time so that you will not imprison them in you, but you will have them to share with all of us at the swap, at other times. But take your stories, do not forget them. Do not forget your songs. Sing, be joyous. Another day is coming. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. Liz, thank you so much. Shags, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sally.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Special thank you to Storytelling Association of California for supporting us and all the swaps around by helping us to meet on Zoom. So I don't know. I mean, I'm happy to stay here for if people want to chat for a few minutes. Like, I don't, it's a little weird chatting with so many people on Zoom, but you know, sort of as we're drifting off. But
Can I ask a question? Where do we get the link to the stories that is it Storytelling Association of America or California? The link that he was talking about?
Who he?
Well, I don't know. Whoever said, you know, that there were six stories on.
oh, Chad,
Chad.
that was you. Are you? I think you were meaning that there are 6 swaps that are
Yeah,
going.
Marianne distributed that
No,
to everybody on the
no.
board.
But somebody came there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Marianne distributed those to people on the board. So all you need to do is request that.
But how? What board? I'm sorry. I just,
Liz, do you have everybody's email address? If not, send Liz your email address and she can send that out. Or
okay,
you can
thanks.
forward it to me.
All right.
Because and just go to storysac.org. STORYSAC.org.
Okay.
You'll
Thank
find
you.
a list of those that say they're online. You can reach out to the Story Swap organizers and get all the details.
Okay, thank you.
It might be a good time to point out that there's a lot of people all over the country and all over the world, kind of like Ken was saying, both hosting swaps, but also doing concerts. A lot of them are free, and putting things up on YouTube. So maybe in our next month reminder for, you know, when I send out an email for next month, maybe would people like it if I try and compile a few, you know, YouTube channel or YouTube URLs and
Yeah.
for watching, you know, for
Be great.
enjoying stories. I'll try and do that.
Thank
Ken has something to say.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was going to say I don't know their website, but the Storytellers of Canada, they do have a list of, I won't say dozens, but different events that are happening in Canada for sure, and I know some in the States and in Europe. So you can, if you can do a search for the Storytellers of Canada, or if I can put my email in the chat if anybody's interested. But
Please do.
yeah, there's that's how I found you guys. I did a quick search for open mic or storytelling events, and did a bit of sifting and found a good half dozen anyway.
Thank you, Ken. And I just, if people are on Facebook, definitely go to the Storytelling Association of California, search for that. And there's a Facebook page for SAC, and lots of people post events there, and links to both, you know, events that are coming up or links to stories you could watch.
And Tell It on Tuesday in the Marsh are certainly available online.
Oh, Ginger Parnes, who told here, is going to be at Tell It on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday. And so is Wayne Harris, who a lot of us know. Fantastic. And then the third person, I don't know, but I'll put that in the chat. I'll put the website for that in the chat.
Ginger, okay.
Yeah, she told at one of our first Zoom swaps. I think she is connected to Stagebridge, but I'm not sure.
Yes.
Yes, she is.
Lovely.
Well, if anybody wants to come over here and sit on the deck and tell a story, just let me know. Give me an email and I'll be happy to arrange it. I have a very large deck. We can sit 6 feet apart, and I'll even give you a biscotti.
Lovely, Sally.
Will you tell us a story if we come?
Of course.
All right.
Of course I will. Yes.
How's Oliver?
How is Oliver? One moment.
Yeah, let me see Oliver. Let me see Oliver.
Hi, Suze. How are you? Do you have a pet?
Hi, Kelly.
Do you have a pet in Philadelphia, or is it Boston?
Philadelphia. Oh, my dog died.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, she she developed a herniated disc.
Ooh.
Oh,
Yeah, it's when you're walking them and they're used to being able to smell and pick up things and you kind of jerk them. I don't know how, but yeah, so she was 12, so there wasn't it wasn't going to do back surgery and try and rehab her in an apartment.
and it's hard to have a conversation, so they can't specifically tell you exactly.
Yeah, right.
And my dog talks to me all the time.
Oh, well, not in English. Well, maybe you know dog, but I had a cat who was going to have extensive surgery, and I said no because I could never explain to her why she's having part of her jaw amputated. So
Yeah, and the pain too.
yeah, I said no.
Yeah.
Did I just see Myra? You were holding up a piece
Nothing.
of
I
paper.
was communicating with somebody else.
Oh, okay.
I realize I should do it by, chat.
You can do that.
No, but
Yeah, people are putting, there are a few interesting things in chat. There's a way to copy chat, I think. Yes, you can, if you got the chat box open and you go to the bottom with the 3 dots, you can click on save chat. And that way, if I don't know exactly what it turns into, but somehow you can put it on your computer. And,
Well, I saved it, so I'll see if I can find it tomorrow.
yeah. Right.
I have to figure it out.
It'll be under Documents, Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, cool.
I can't open it.
Suze, did you move? Are you?
Yeah, I'm in Philadelphia.
Did you move for good? I mean, you're like. Are you
Well,
visiting?
there was a thought, but no. I rented out my house so I can come back.
Okay. Well, are you planning to come back or?
After the election. I want my vote to count.
You want what?
I want my vote to count. I'm in Pennsylvania.
Yes. Okay. Well, how long? When did you go?
Oh, end of September.
Okay.
So it'll be I'll be here like a little over a year. My son and his girlfriend are here.
Oh, okay. Well, good. I thought you have people that you know.
No, I came.
You know.
And I was seeing them until the world ended. And they're both nurses, so
Oh my goodness! Well, it's a good thing that you're there as a support. I bet they really appreciate you being there as a support.
Well, sort of.